I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me. And they'd tell you don't go to the house on the hill. And it's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere. Like,
In 1998, Mel Gibson sat down for an interview and told the world that Hollywood was hiding something dark, something sinister, something most people weren't ready to hear. They called him paranoid. They called him a conspiracy theorist. They blackballed him for years. But now, with over 3 million pages of Epstein files sitting in the public domain, it turns out that Mel Gibson might have been the only person in Hollywood brave enough to tell the truth, while everyone else stayed silent to protect their careers. And he's not the only one who tried to warn us. Corey Feldman, Elijah Wood, Jim Caviezel, they all said the same thing. Nobody listened. Today we go through everything, the warnings, the files, the cover-ups, and the receipts that prove these people were right all along. Before we talk about the files, you need to understand the people who tried to tell us first. Because this didn't start with Epstein's arrest. This started decades ago, with people inside the industry screaming at the top of their lungs while the rest of the world ignored them.
You believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information. But
Corey Feldman told the Santa Barbara Police Department back in 1993 that children were being abused by powerful people in Hollywood. He named names, on the record, and nothing happened. For 30 years, he was treated like a troubled child star with an overactive imagination.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
He said they were pedophiles. He said they were still working. And the industry's response? Silence. Blacklist. Move on. Nothing to see here. And Corey wasn't alone.
This most dangerous game, as they referred to it, was a matter of human hunting. And when a mind-controlled slave such as myself was stripped of clothes and turned loose in the woods, I was then hunted by George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton, among others. But they were the main ones. I do not believe that it was necessary for them to have subjected me to this form of trauma. There were so many other traumas going on at the time. My mind was already prime conditioned for mind control program. So I really don't understand it, except for the fact that they found great pleasure in this form of human hunting. And they took it from particular military maneuvers. And
Which base we're talking about when you was recalling the situation when Clinton was president and Mr. Bush? Which airspace?
There's a little place called Lampy, Missouri, that's just across the Arkansas line. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time, and his whole corporation that was, Mena, Arkansas was the main hub for, was bringing cocaine into this CIA compound. And this particular Swiss villa, as they called it, amphitheater, in Lampy, Missouri, was actually a CIA compound out in the woods, military fencing all around it, and mind control training center where there was high-tech equipment was in one building. There were offices in another. There were little Swiss style villas or cabins where different officials in either the military, CIA, or politics would stay, and it would house them while they were there for either the cocaine activities, for the paramilitary operations that were going on. You know, there were black helicopters everywhere, totally robotic guys that were being used in special forces.
Which special forces you're referring to? There was also another program, Mind Control, by Delta Force,
Yes.
right? Can you describe, what is your knowledge? Do you have any knowledge of that, or you met these people, and can you describe me some more of this?
The Delta Force and the Navy SEALs are an elite part of the military that is mind controlled, like the mercenaries. I'm more familiar with the mercenaries that were being trained to carry out international operations that weren't necessarily sanctioned by Congress, and they were brought into other countries, such as South America, and to carry out their orders. When in a country like that, the airplanes would then come back with the drugs, and it was then sold on the streets here in America and really worldwide. The CIA's so-called war on drugs was nothing more than the CIA eliminating their competition and taking over the drug industry. So it was all inter-attached. It all interworked.
Now, I need to be transparent with you. Some of these claims go into territory that sounds absolutely insane. Human hunting? Mind control? If someone told you this 5 years ago, you'd laugh them out of the room. But after seeing what's actually in the Epstein files, the photos, the emails, the flight logs, the surveillance footage, are we really in a position to say anything is too dark to be true anymore? Now let's get to the man at the center of this conversation, Mel Gibson. For the longest time, Hollywood convinced the world that Mel was the villain. And look, the man has done things he's had to answer for. The 2006 DUI arrest and the anti-Semitic comments were ugly. No one's pretending otherwise. He's publicly acknowledged his alcoholism and apologized multiple times. But here's the question nobody in the media wants to ask. Was the intensity of the backlash actually about what he said during that arrest? Or was it about what he'd been saying for years before it? About the darkness he witnessed when he first walked into Hollywood as a 25-year-old man? Because in 1998, Mel sat down for an interview on a show called Hollywood Conversations with director Mike Figgis. And what he said in that interview has aged like prophecy.
The first time I really came over here, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand. And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill. And it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that...
Listen to what he's describing. He walked into Hollywood and immediately sensed something was off. He compared it to one of those horror movie towns where the stranger walks into the bar and everyone goes quiet. He said he formed opinions about the people in this town that he thought were too dark to be real. He convinced himself he was being paranoid.
You are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think, now this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon, eventually, if you stay here long enough.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself doing that. And you have to, there's a way of doing it without doing it. And that takes time. And it takes relaxation.
Some of your worst nightmares were real. He said that. In 1998, 21 years before Epstein was arrested, 28 years before the files dropped. Now, at the time, The mainstream media framed this interview as a rambling, eccentric actor being dramatic. Nobody took it seriously. But when you watch that clip today, knowing what's in those Epstein files, the trafficking, the parties, the surveillance, the powerful people implicated, it hits completely different. And here's a critical detail. Mel Gibson's name does not appear anywhere in the Epstein files. Not in the flight logs, not in the Black Book, not in a single DOJ document. In a sea of powerful names, politicians, billionaires, entertainers, his name is nowhere to be found. Make of that what you will. Now, to understand why Mel's warnings were buried, you need to understand what happened to his career. In 2004, Mel directed and self-financed The Passion of the Christ. Every major studio in Hollywood refused to fund it. Not because it was a bad investment. The film went on to make over $600 million worldwide on a $30 million budget. They refused because the content made them uncomfortable. A raw, unflinching depiction of faith in an industry that, as we're now learning, may have had good reason to keep God out of the conversation. After the film's massive success, instead of being celebrated, Mel was hit with fresh waves of controversy. Accusations of anti-Semitism, industry blacklisting, roles drying up, directing opportunities vanishing. For nearly a decade, one of Hollywood's biggest stars was effectively erased, and people around him started asking the obvious question: was the punishment really proportional to the crime? Or was Mel being made an example of because he refused to play the game? Fast forward to 2023, a film called Sound of Freedom was released, and it shook the industry to its core. Now, I need to correct something that's been floating around online. A lot of people think Mel Gibson directed or produced this movie. That's not entirely accurate. The film was directed by Alejandro Monteverde and produced by Eduardo Verástegui. Mel Gibson served as an executive producer and publicly promoted the film, but the creative vision belonged to Monteverde and the lead actor, Jim Caviezel, the same man who played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. Caviezel plays Tim Ballard, a real former Department of Homeland Security agent who quit his government job to rescue children from trafficking networks in Colombia. The story follows Ballard as he goes undercover, posing as a buyer, to infiltrate these networks and free children who were lured through fake modeling and talent scouts. The film made over $250 million worldwide on a $14.5 million budget, making it one of the most successful independent films in history. And the media reaction was telling. Major outlets spent more energy questioning its connections to conspiracy theories than covering the actual subject matter.
One of the most disturbing problems in our world today is human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness. Go see Sound of Freedom.
Whether you agree with every claim the film makes or not, the core message is undeniable. Child trafficking is real, it's massive, and the people doing it are protected by money and power. And now, after the Epstein files dropped, the parallels between what Sound of Freedom depicted and what these documents reveal are chilling. Fake talent scouts recruiting young people, private islands, powerful men with unlimited resources, a system designed to protect the predators and silence the victims. Now let's talk about what's actually in these files, because the scale of this is something most people still haven't fully processed. In January 2026, the Department of Justice released over 3 million pages of documents, 180,000 images, and more than 2,000 videos connected to the federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. This was mandated by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, signed into law by President Trump in November 2025. The files contain surveillance footage from Epstein's properties, photos that are so disturbing they can't be shown or described on this platform, emails between Epstein and some of the most powerful people on the planet, flight logs documenting who flew on his private jet, the so-called Lolita Express, and FBI intake reports detailing allegations from victims. One detail that caught fire online was a purchase order showing that on December 6, 2018, Epstein's company bought 6 55-gallon drums of sulfuric acid, 330 gallons total, to be shipped to his private island. And that date? It happens to be the exact same day the FBI reopened their investigation into him. Now, in the interest of credibility, here's the full context. The purchase order explicitly states the acid was for an RO plant, a reverse osmosis water desalination system. Sulfuric acid is a standard chemical used in these systems to control pH levels. Epstein's island, being remote, required desalination to have drinkable water. And emails from as far back as 2013 reference the island's RO plant needing sulfuric acid. So was it just routine water treatment? Possibly. But with everything we now know about what was happening on that island, people aren't willing to take anything at face value anymore. And honestly, can you blame them? And this brings us to the most frustrating part of this entire saga. After everything that's come out, 3 million pages of evidence, thousands of images and videos, names of some of the most powerful people on Earth, not a single new arrest has been made. Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is serving her sentence. But the network, the clients, the people who flew to that island, attended those parties, and participated in what these files describe, they're still walking free. And Mel Gibson, Corey Feldman, Jim Caviezel, the people who tried to sound the alarm, they were the ones who paid the price. Blacklisted, mocked, called crazy. While the actual predators kept their mansions, their careers, and their freedom. That's the part that should keep you up at night. Not just that it happened, but that the system worked exactly as designed. Protect the powerful, silence the whistleblowers, and wait for the public to get distracted and move on. Mel Gibson told us in 1998 that his worst nightmares about Hollywood were real. Corey Feldman told the police in 1993. Jim Caviezel put it on a movie screen in 2023. And now, in 2026, the United States Department of Justice has given us the receipts. The only question left is the same one it's always been. Does anyone in power actually care enough to do something about it? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it.